Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. Welcome again to this amazing Saturday, giving continuations to our talks here on Saturday with one another, enlighten our lives together here at the Spiritist Society of Baltimore. Still online, but hopefully soon we will be gathering physically in the same space, in the same four walls. But until then, let us continue with our uplifting messages here through the web. As usual, we would like to read a passage of the book Happy Life. Yes, I still have the beat up old version of this amazing book. It's still going, still kicking, and I'm quite sure it will go on for many more years for those of you who have the newer version. I believe this is 150, no, 76. All right, 176 is the message. And this book over here is page 222. If you would like to go back later on and read it again. It's an amazing message by Joanna De Angelis through the hands of the medium Divaldo Franco. We'll read it and then we'll pray together. She says the following: keep yourself presentable in a simple, hygienic way. Great humility is confused with filthiness, leading to lamentable carelessness. In the same way, it is thought incorrectly. I'm sorry. In the same way, it is thought incorrectly that a good personal appearance is affection. Jesus' vestments shone, say the scriptures, demonstrating his purity and his power reflected in the modest dress that he wore. He was never sick and never appeared in a disagreeable or surprising exotic attire. Like his friends, he wore clothing of the time, while, however, giving it his higher irradiation. Your magnetism will show, accentuating or diminishing your appearance, which deserves competent zeal. So, in this way, let us think about the vestment, right? Think about our conditions and how important it is for us to present ourselves, and not confuse this with being humble, being kind, and not really be presentable. With all the respect for those who may not be able to dress well, but if we are clean and if we're presenting ourselves in a positive way, guess what? That will speak quite a bit about ourselves and how we conduct ourselves. On that note, let us also focus on how we can conduct our minds, our feelings, so that can be externalized with one another here, reaching one another through our prayer, through our connections that we're establishing right now. Asking our dear Creator, dear Mother, Father God, our Master Jesus to guide us all this afternoon into this evening, so that we can extract as much as possible from the message, from our connection that we are establishing, and all the good things that we have put together to be here this evening. We also ask that you guide the mind and heart of our dear friend Daniel, who will be presenting tonight. May he be the good vessel for all of us to receive the energy from the teachings that comes from Spiritism, the teachings that comes from different science, and all his knowledge. We are thankful for this opportunity to be here this evening, to have one another, to have like minds, searching for something new, uplifting, hoping that we can all put into practice in the best of our abilities with one another here and ever, and so be it. This way, dear friend, we would like to invite our dear friend Daniel Santos, who will be talking about nothing happens by chance. It is an amazing topic for all of us because sometimes we doubt about ourselves. Sometimes we things that may be happening in our homes, in our lives in general, right? that it could be okay. This is just to happen, but we know about we read and we try to understand quite a bit, and Spiritism does teach us about actions, reactions, consequences, right? Our responsibility with ourselves, with one another. But with no further ado, I'll pass the word to Daniel so he can go ahead and enlighten us in this amazing evening. Thank you, Daniel, for being here and your hard work studying this matter and presenting us to us tonight as well.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. And you said right, things happen in our life, series of events has been happened throughout humanity. And I think our idea today here is pretty much, let me share here my screen. Just a minute. Um, okay, so I guess everyone can see my slide over there. Um, so the idea is for us to do a little reflection about a series of events that happen in our life, and sometimes we question, if those experience that we are going through, um, it is fair, and sometimes we even question why things happen. And the idea today is for us to do a analysis about um, the probability of things that happen due to chance. That's why the title of our presentation is Nothing Happened by Chance. And I will try to argue here by bringing the Spiritist teachings that, in fact, everything that happens in our life is inside of this divine plan for ourselves. And at the same time, we also contribute for those events to happen, and we are trying to analyze the events to see if there is a real cause or if it is things by chance. But as the title of our discussion today is already saying nothing happened by chance, we are already implying here that everything that happens in our life, and we can add this personal life or collective life as a society, at some point there is a cause for that. Okay, so let us go there. So let me put my slide here a little bit bigger. So I would like to start with this question. If I can change my slide. Okay. Yes, I think I can. You can change now. So what if I say that chance, luck, or coincidence don't really exist? Do you agree or not? Do you think that some people has come to this planet, has been born, is a product of luck, or if it is a coincidence, because that person was born in a rich family, or that person has those kind of beauty that would like to have, that the person has some kind of privilege or some kind of, or has the perfect job that we would like to have. Is this a product of chance? Is this luck? Or is this could be just a coincidence that the person was in that place in the right time, and they bought it, that lottery ticket, and they become rich overnight? Or the opposite, that person was in that place and something happened, and the person was harmed. So all this question has crossed our mind at some time, right? And we see a lot of events happen um, throughout humanity, throughout the human evolution, that we put in check. If it was really God was really aware of that situation. Okay, we're gonna do I hope at the end of this talk we can have a better understand about events that happens in our life, and if those events is product of chance or not, or if we are responsible for that. So I would like to bring some passage for us to reflect. For example, this one is from this filmmaker, screenwriter, Michael Straczynski. He is creator of movies like science fiction movie, Marvel comics, and he said like this: accident happens. That's what everyone says. But in a quantum universe, there are no such things as accident, only possibilities and probabilities folded into existence by perception. So we highlight the word probabilities and possibility for us to start to think about it. That, you know, thing doesn't happen by chance. That if something happened at some point, there was the probability of that thing to happen. And the question that comes before that is that, do I or a group of people participate on that event to happen by using that, idea of probability and possibilities? And of course, when they mention quantum universe, we are not specialists in quantum physics, but we know that this is a area that studied all the little things, right? So there's subparticles, things that is related to matter. So in the quantum universe, there is no such thing as steady. So everything is change position all the time, so in a point that becomes wave, so, and in a wave, we cannot define where is the electron or the particle is, so they are always change position. So that's what the terminology probability and possibility is applied to. So by bringing this to our life, so there is this theory that became very famous in the 60s, the butterfly effect theory, and it's something that there is movies about, there is articles, there is shows about the butterfly theory, and this is a theory that says that a butterfly flapping its wings, for example, in South America, would cause a tornado here in the North America, for example. And another way to see this in a more specialized situation would be a small change in one state of a deterministic non-linear system can result in a large difference in a later state. Daniel, why you bring this? We are bringing this because we wanted to make a point here that nothing happened by chance. Everything is interconnected. So there is no outlier point out there. There is no outlier dot. So all the dots are interconnected. So, and this theory helps a lot to develop tools to predict things like, I don't know, for example, the weather prediction, somehow using those technology to predict things to happen based on the analysis of a series of events. So we can use this that we have through our scientific evolution, find a way to have a better life in the material life. We can apply this also to our personal and life in the sense of relate to emotion, relate to traumas, relate to the social status that we are, to also try to understand that, if there is, everything is interconnected, where in time the cause of those events that we are living happens. So in the book of the Spiritist book that is turning 164 years tomorrow, April 18, Kardec asked a very interesting question. Up to now, we are just talking more about material things, right? We're going to transition this to our emotion, to our experience in life, events that happen in our life. So in question number 8, he asked about, the idea of chance. He says, what about the idea that attributes what about the idea that attributes the first formation of all things to an accidental combination of matter, i.e., to chance? So the highlight in this question is accidental combination of matter. Accidental means that, what is an accident was something that happened by chance, as he point at the end of his question. So what to say about this idea? Because a lot of people out there believe that some event is product of chance. And the enlightened spirit answered, another absurdity. How could anyone with any common sense believe that, or of anyone with any common sense believe that chance is an intelligent agent? Moreover, what is chance? Nothing. So that's a very interesting perspective that we learn from the noble spirit, that if something happened, if the events that happen is an intelligent event, of course the cause must be an intelligent cause, right? So Kardec make a comment after in this particular question by saying that the harmony that governs the force of the universe reveals certain set combinations and design, and thus an intelligent power. To attribute that first formation of thing to change would be nonsense, because change is blind and cannot produce intelligent results. An intelligent chance would no longer be chance. I think it's change. Yeah, chance. Yeah. So it makes sense, right? He's just reaffirming what the spirit answer. I mean, like, if there is change that is an intelligent change, we cannot just attribute by chance, because it's a chance is blind. Chance is blind, you know? So when we say, well, okay, the universe was created out of chance, and then the first question we would ask is like, okay, why everything is so harmonious? Our body is a product of, chance. But those that study the physical body will see that everything works perfectly. I mean, like, in a healthy individual, of course. And everything is interconnected. And if something become imbalanced, the whole system may be compromised. So this is this kind of thing that is will help us when we analyze uh, events of our life by using these natural laws, or by put this in this perspective that nothing happened by chance. So let us transition a little bit here to our life, the human life, and analyze a little bit about things that happens, events that happen in our life. And when we say events, we can apply this to positive events, but also we can apply this to negative events, events that's not enjoyable. Okay, so for example, our present life right now, we are the result of things that we planned in our life, right? And if the result is positive, it's because we made a lot of positive choices. I would say a lot of good choices. But if we go to a situation that is not so much enjoyable, at some point, I'm not saying at some point in space and time, I'm just saying at some point in time, it's like a linear analysis. Um, we probably did something that, today will be showing this in our life. We are not here to judge. We are here to analyze, to study, and to learn about what the noble spirit, about what Spiritism has taught us, to see that the creation is perfect, but events that's not pleasant has somehow our also a contribution. So in this case, for example, the result of our life here today has somehow is somehow to do link to the choice and decision that we made in the past. And the same way that whatever we do nowadays in a different level, action, through our thoughts, through our behavior, will impact also our future. So it's always important for us to always analyze the actions that we are doing, the kind of thought that we are emitting, how we are behaving toward one another and in our society as well. But also the present is, in fact, this moment that the past can play a role, the present and the past is intertwined, they are interconnected at somehow. Of course, not everything that was done in the past will be manifest in the present right now. There are things that maybe will be manifested in the future, but the cause was done in the past. And thanks to the forgetfulness of the past, we are not allowed to remember, to know everything that we have done in previous life. And we see this as a blessing. It's a blessing from the Creator to protect us from ourselves. Because if we know everything that we have done in the past, when we say here in the past, we can extrapolate to past life. It's kind of a little bit easy to remember what we have done in this current lifetime. Depends the age or the time that we are living. Of course, there is traumatic situation that we may forget because it's so traumatic that is going to be buried in our unconscious for many years. But one day, that event, that situation will emerge to our conscience, to our present life, and will feel that, the result of that action, okay? Or experience that we have been going through. So let us talk a little bit about pain and suffering, because sometimes we use this word and we put in a different context. So is this the same, pain and suffering? Um, so whatever happened in our life is a pain, emotion, is a pain, is a feeling of pain, or it's just you feel that you are suffering. So just for us to, it's more didactical way because there is situation that you may say, okay, so I don't have any physical injury, but I'm feeling pain, right? Or sometimes you have a emotional situation, and you define as a suffering, and sometimes the emotional situation you define as a pain. So how can we reconcile these two words in a way that we can analyze some events, unpleasant events that happen in our life? So for us to put in context, when we say pain, we are most of the time relate to the physical area, right? So I have a pain in my hand, I have a headache, I have a pain in my arm, so I have a pain in my body. When the pain is in the moral field, in general, we can say that we are suffering, emotionally suffering. But the pain in our physical body also we can name as a suffering because, it's an unpleasant feeling that we are going through, right? So the pain that's related to a physical in the physical area can lead to is due to an imbalanced physiological situation, right? So, for example, if you feel a back pain, for example, you may have used the muscles of your back or your spinal cord spinal cord in a way that will cause an imbalance of that part of your body. So, but when we behave, when our moral is put in check, for example, when we act in a way that our behavior is related to pride and selfishness, that would may cause, in the long run, a feeling of suffering, not in the physical body, but a mental suffering. So that's pretty much related to, our moral behavior. So everything is perspective, right? So we have a chapter, we have a passage in the Gospel according to Spiritism that's called the point of view, and Kardec argue the point of view in relation to, how we see ourselves as a spiritual being or material person. So depends how you look at, you may draw different conclusions. So a way for us to use that text and put this in our life and analyze that the events that happen in our life, if those events is interconnected to past cause, or if it is just something that happened in a time, or space and time. So it's important for us to analyze that everything depends how you look at the situation, and for us to understand. So I just draw this, for example, if you have a colorful house that has different side that is painted in a different color, so depends of the angle we are looking at or the place we are looking at that house, we may say, okay, this house is, I don't know, blue, you know but if another person is looking the house from the back of the house, and I put all the three situations here, so they would say that no, the house is not blue. The house may be, red. I hope I'm saying the right color over there. I have some kind of colorblind issues. So if you're looking the side, you're gonna may say, okay, the house is probably green or, another color. So the question is, who is right here? So, well, depends. Everybody's right. The one that is looking the front, they are right. The one that's looking the back and tell what color is the house, also they or he or she is right. And the one that look just the side of the house is right. So by bringing this, I wanted to tell you that in Spiritism, all pain, all suffering is valid. There is no pain or suffering that is bigger than the other, because only the person that is going to that situation has the authority to tell how much that is painful in their life. Joana de Angelis, very beautiful, bring this in her psychological series, that it is a fallacy to judge other person feeling if we are not in the shoes of that other person. So whatever the person is saying that they are going through, make a comparison for other person that is suffering is not just, because is each one has its own way to perceive the situation. So, but if we have to come and say, okay, we have three different point of view, but then if someone comes from the above and look at the house, that person and would, that's why we mentioned that in spiritism, so everybody needs to be validated. It would be like the spiritist view, because I would put in a draw here is like, if it is those that is looking from up, which means that the moment that we start to study and learn how the situation happened in our life, even during our suffering, we have some kind of consolation, because now we may know why those situations happen in our life. Daniel, this is a justification for my suffering? No, not at all. It's just another way for us to understand why things happen, you know? And even if we don't have exactly the answer for our suffering, no problem. At least if we have the notion that God is loving, that God is just, that if we are going through this situation, personally or collectively, like for example, what happened right now with the manifestation of this pandemic that has been here for almost 1 year. I've seen a lot of my friends and some people cursing the pandemic, the virus, cursing. And I understand that in the moment of disappointment, of angry, of emotional imbalance, we may come out that way. But that's not the virus' fault. The virus is doing what they should do it, you know? So we should try to analyze the situation of the events of our life by restrain us by trying to open our mind and see all the side of the situation. We are not here to judge. If you wanted to curse the virus, it's your free will. I'm just bringing this so in a sense for us to have a different look on the situation in our life. So in the, let me read here. So in the same chapter, um, the Kardec mentioned that the vicissitude of life have a cause. The vicissitudes of life has have a cause, and since God is just, the cause must also be just. Okay, so when say vicissitude means all the change, the unpleasant change that we go through throughout our life, um, they have a cause. Sometimes we don't remember, but the fact that we don't remember doesn't mean that there is no cause. That was our suffering is just a product of chance. So it's a lot of push us really to do the extra mile and to try to understand those events that happen in our life. So I wanted to bring this for us to try to analyze where we are located in the universe. Okay, so we understand that there is different categories of worlds out there, many planets, galaxies, solar system. And although we have not yet find any human life out there, doesn't mean that does not exist, right? And we learn that in the universe there is many planets, galaxies, where the inhabitants of those planets, they are living a very happy, blissful life. They don't have the vicissitudes that we have in the planet that we are, and this somehow, by knowing this brings some consolation to us that it's just a matter of time. We'll one day be there as well, as a planet, as a spirit, immortal spirit that we are, right? So just for us to understand a little bit, there is some cartoon here that I draw. For example, if we compare matter with spirituality, they are kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum. Okay, so if we say that this triangle here, matter, represent for matter, so it means that depends the level of that planet, how the predominance of matter and the predominance of spirituality works. Okay, so I try to put this in a very graphic, didactic way, drawing those schemes, so for us to understand how things move throughout time. So, for example, if we say that, in the more evolved planet, spirituality is predominance upon matter, so how this thing work in terms of different category of world out there. So, for example, primitive one, we have the predominance of matter. So if we study our humanity, we see that 10,000 years ago, the society was pretty much ruled by matter, in the sense that our behavior, our laws, has very little of spirituality. I mean, they have some. The spirituality was a spirituality that is embedded in their unconscious, but was not a rational spirituality. Let me put that way. Okay. So we are not saying here that the primitive man doesn't believe. They believe that there is a force out there, but in terms of the reason to understand how that force or the God that the create happens was not different away. Sorry about that. So so if we move to a word that's a little bit more evolved, and that would be the planet Earth right now, planet of trial and expiations. So we see that now we are moving a little bit up in the level where spirituality starts to kick in, which means that now we have an idea that we should love one another, but sometimes we don't put this in practice. We already have all the elements that tell us that there is one single God out there, that we are immortal spirit, that we may reincarnate many times. So all this knowledge becoming more acceptable. But the predominance of matter, materialistic ideas, still prevail, right? So if you move to the next level, would be the regeneration world, and that is the next level that we hope to achieve probably the next centuries. We don't know how long. So where we see that goodness starts to prevail and the materialistic idea starts to become less heavy, right? And finally, happy and divine words. Those is for pure spirit, spirit that is already in the level of Jesus. So, and when the spirit reach that level of pure spirit, they truly have the comprehension about what is God. Because right now we don't know the nature of God. We don't know much, what is God. We just know that God is the supreme intelligence, the first cause of everything, and that's it. There is no much elaboration. And in the Spirit's book, there is a question in the first part of the Spirit's book, when Kardec asked that, and the Spirit pretty much shut down Kardec and continue ask the same question regard to God. He said, look, you guys, mean us, we don't have yet the faculty to understand what God is and what the nature of God is. So it means that we don't have the sense. We know that we have right now, we have five senses, but we lack the sense that will allow us one day to understand God and why, and to understand the creation. And he said, only when we become pure spirit. So we have a long way to go. So right now, let us not even worry. And the spirit advises us to say, look, instead for us to try to understand about God and if there is life in other galaxies, concentrate in yourself, work in your inner reform, in your inner transformation. That is the goal, because those that is already in that level of pure spirit, or those that is responsible for galaxy and planet, they are doing their job. So it's up to us to do our job as well. A little bit about causes of earthly afflictions, and of course we can analyze this in a different way. Just for to make things didactically and easy to understand, at least for me, and I wanted to share with you, we create the no. So I'm sorry. So in the gospel according to Spiritism, we have a chapter 4. I will explain a little bit the causes of those earthly affliction that could be in the past or could be in the present. And so some of those examples, for example, in the past, we have, for example, natural disaster, congenital infirmity, like people that has chronic infirmity that they are born with, physical disability, those that when, a child is born with disability, mental impairment, and that was not caused in this lifetime. And also the question of death of young individual, like, when little children are born with terminal disease, so we always question, so what this child has done to have that kind of experience, or go to that situation. So all these we can attribute those to maybe past life causes. Okay, and the present one is more related to our behavior here, our imprudence, pride, ambition, lack of discipline, perseverance, education, wrong conduct, all this may play a role in our in the present cause of our affliction. Sometimes the cause was not even last year, probably was like, I don't know, 10 years, and we forgot. And suddenly now we are um, um, suffering the consequence of that based on that butterfly effect, right? The butterfly effect theory says that, small things are interconnected that can later become big thing, can really affect a system, right? So we can apply that idea as well to the events that happen in our life as well. So, regards to present cause, we can identify two aspects here. One, the individual aspect, and the other one, the social aspect. Of course, when we talk about social, we are talking about those that is, responsible for position that will impact the life of many, or many. For example, so in the individual aspect, um, sometimes the present cause is a result from the misuse of our free will. We all have the free will at some capacity to make decision and choice and behave whatever the way we want. And that may really bring some result that is not pleasant in the future, right? And the social, so it's more related to the consequence of others' free will. And then we mentioned like people that is in the position of power, politicians, people that are responsible to take care of the community. If by any chance they misuse their free will, we impact the individual. So now way to see this, and we just draw here, is that my free will, and if everybody use the free will in the same direction, will impact positive or negative the society. And in the same way, if we have people that is in the position to make decision, and if they misuse their free will, they will not impact the individual, but also they will impact a society or a group of people. So that's the better way to see this. Let's put this in a small context. Let's put this in a family setting. If one of the conjugal in a family starts to behave a little bit different, that behave not only may bring suffering to that individual, but also affect the whole family, right? So we can expand this to a social environment as well. So, and then the question posed here is that, okay, so Daniel, so when we look at our society nowadays, are we going backward? Is this something that is going to go to a tragic end? So what Spiritism says about it? And Kardec asked that question. And that question was asked in 164 years ago, basically in the 19th century. And Kardec asked, does the perfecting of humankind always follow a progressive and slow march? So pretty much Kardec want to know if, why things take too long to improve. Why suffering is, is is so slow, So of course he is putting here in a perspective of humankind as a whole, but humanity is formed by single individuals that get together to form this population. The Spirit answer in question 783, there is the regular and the slow progress that result from the force of things. However, when a culture does not advance quickly enough, then from time to time, God causes a physical or moral jolt that transforms it. So we highlight physical and moral. So again, thing should happen regularly, but also sometimes slow down. When this thing happen, and we can apply this to our personal life as well to our society, the health of a society. And nowadays, especially from last year to this year, we have seen some of the issues pop up in our society, such as racial issues and situation that we thought was under control, but it seems that it's not. That we still have a long way to go. You know, we we have to move on. We are not going backward, and this time now somehow has favor a moment that we have to revisit some issues that still exist, but we are trying to not to pay too much attention. Now we are invited to pay attention. And as Kardec mentioned, however, when a culture does not advance quickly enough, then from time to time, it's not all the time, it's from time to time, God causes a physical or moral joint that transform it. So how many situations has happened in our life that make us stop and reflect and ask the question, what I am doing here? I need to change. I need to make a decision. I need to find a way to resolve this. So this is looking the house from above, the colorful house from above. It's like, is this teaching that, pushes, to reevaluate our life. And if we are going to a physical event that is make us stop and think about it. So we also know that if there is a problem that we have caused, we also are the one that have the solution for that problem. Maybe the solution will not gonna come, overnight. Maybe need some time for reflection, but I think that would be our reflection regards to where we are going to. Even though if you see that it looks like you're going downhill in your life, don't get despaired, because it's just a moment of reflection and things will get better, because progress is always move forward. We never regret, right? So to finalize, I have this message from the book On the Way to the Light, psychographed by Chico Xavier, by the Spiritist Emmanuel. And Emmanuel says, the generations of all epochs have come and gone with their troubles and affliction. Wars have broadened the pathway of people and their unending pilgrimage toward higher knowledge. Monarchy's throne has fallen and millenary crowns have been destroyed. World ruler has returned to the stage of their pride vanity in the humble garment of slaves, and vain dictator still incite the peoples of the earth to spread death and destructions. He continues, the determinism of love and the good is the law of the whole universe, and the human soul emerged from every catastrophe looking for a better life. Emmanuel tells us that through divine determinism, we are all on our way to the light. So at the end of the day, we need to go to bed and reflect upon that whatever is happening is not by chance, that there is a divine determinism. So there is a God that is lovely and just, and nothing happened by chance. Even though it's become harder for us to understand what was the cause of our suffering, the positive message that we'd like to share with you is that just wait a little bit more. Just wait a little bit more, because everything shall pass. And one day is going to be only light. The dark moment will not be more a routine in our life. Only light will be. So To share this quote by our dear Benjamin Franklin, he said, "By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail." So, very philosophical, very true, because if something fails in our life, it's because at some point in the past we have failing to prepare. Um, I would like to call Leo so we can um, go to some comment and question.
Daniel,
Leo,
first of
thank
all,
you, everyone.
you no, thank you for this amazing reminder and teachings that you brought to us today about this amazing topic of. Oh, actually, okay, I'm back. I thought I lost everything. Nothing happens by chance, right? This idea of chance in our lives and us in general. Great highlights that you brought here and teachings from Spiritism, as well as making us think at the beginning, right? Based on our physiology, for example, nature in general, that everything works in this homeostasis where things are just falling to place. At least it seems to us, without the proper knowledge of science in general, that things are falling to place and it just happens, right? But when we dissect it and we kind of break things into parts, we see that okay, there is a command, there is a thought. This was well planned, if we can say it that way, and it kind of makes us question this whole thing. Before we go on to the questions, the comments, I always like to thank everyone for participating. Thank you, Kirsten, for maintaining our chat here, making sure that we say our hellos to everyone and saying hi to everyone. We have many of them here with us today. Iracema, we have Alba, Mr. Luis Camargo, and many others who were actually acknowledging this moment with us. So thank you for being here and really sharing this moment with us. Some comments that we had here, Daniel, it's when you ask the question, right? To believe things are by chance or luck, and then Kirsten said, "I don't believe in luck." It just feels like that sometimes, LOL, and it is true that sometimes things are just okay. It just happened. I was just here, but we know that there is more, behind it and beyond as well, right?
Yes, yes, yes. I even there is no sometime. There is no such thing as luck. Even when we say sometime,
Well,
of
she
course,
feels that way.
yeah, no, that's fine. We're not gonna, question the feelings. But I mean, based on even nowadays, we accept one thing, Leo, that I wanted to share here that always strike me a lot is how GPS works. You know, I mean, like GPS, I mean, everything follow I mean, like, of course, there is a little measure of error. You have your cell phone here. So if you lose your cell phone or if you are driving a car and put the GPS, I mean, the series of events that happen to locate exactly the point that you are, I mean, like, is amazing. It's very precisely. And this is something that we all embrace and acknowledge, right? But then when we come about events that relate to abstract things, we add the luck, the coincidence, the chance, as if it is something completely different. Yes, we are the object, so we can play a role on that. The question is how conscient we were when we made a decision that caused that event late in our life. So I know that it's easy to say, but it's very difficult to grasp this concept, but we can analyze that at the end of the day, if we accept that, device material thing works like this, and we are using here the natural law, that is the law that govern, the material things, how come we cannot use this for our moral laws as well? It's just like analysis,
This is great, Daniel, that you said this, and taking what Kirsten said here, but really there is a divine plan in everything for our own benefit, and taking this analogy that you made with the GPS. So if we are in this uh, road of life right now, quite frankly, I made a turn into this world back then, right? And what I will do now in this world of life will dictate the next world where I will be in,
Exactly.
not only in this life but in the future life as well. So that's a great way um, to
Analyze,
analyze and give us the the ability, which also puts us in a position where what is past, what is present, what is future, right? And our responsibility between these different perception of time, since you also talk about perception. Very nice way to put it. Thank you.
yeah, yeah.
um,
And talk about present theory. This is product of time, right? It's time. Time is only applied to matter, okay? Because when there is no matter, there is no time, right? So matter decays, matter transform, and that this active give rise to time. So matter creates time. That's why when we talk about God be the infinite, God has no time. And sometimes when we go to the other side, like time in the spiritual world pretty much doesn't exist as we read time here, because time is completely related to matter. The spirit is immortal, is like it is what it is. So there is no time, but then we need to have that concept to time. But when we apply time, we are talking about matter, and that's okay. It's part of the creation. you know
so thank you for the comment. And Yasko brings this question here: coincidence may be a result of law of attraction.
Yes, we can put that way. We can put law of attraction as a coincidence, but I mean, like, if everything follows laws, and the laws that we are talking here, what kind of laws we are talking? We are not talking about human laws. So we are talking here about the divine laws, and the divine laws is perfect. So then the law of attraction is perfect. The natural law is perfect. Natural law, okay? Moral law is the law that now we play a role. But for example, we the natural, whatever happened in terms of the law of attraction, for example, the law of attraction is the same in the inorganic beings as well in the organic beings. So the law of attraction, like from a molecule to a molecule, is the same from a law of attraction from a human being to another human being. And that attraction will happen because at some point in time, I'm not saying space, in time, those individuals had some kind of interaction that create that energy that now was built to attract one another or to repulse one another. There's a beautiful part in the book, in the Spirit's book, part 4, about hope and
Solaces.
hopes and solace, that talk about antipathy and sympathy, like that, about people that you know does not go well for the people from the moment they met, and those that really has great interaction with someone that is considered strange. Where this come from?
Hmm.
What those people has in common that attract each other? What those people has uh, that is different, that create a repulsion among them? So I think all this can be philosophical way to see it, but there is truth in all these comments. So I would say yes, Yasku, I think could be a result of coincidence, but we have to add that also could be a result of chance. And since the title of this talk is about nothing happened by chance, so to conclude your comment, I would say no, it's not a coincidence.
Well, Daniel, thank you for the comments there. And we have all saying, I think that everything has a reason. Kirsten actually also mentioned, yes, have always said that too. God deals with probability. when you were talking about probabilities, right? On how we like
Mm.
the results of events that we have. Um, Kirsten also said, also, it seems like physical pain is validated, but when you express emotional, moral suffering, it doesn't have the same weight. I wonder why that is.
And I think that's true because everything's so when we talk about the emotion moral suffering, we are dealing with something here that is more complex than the physical pain. And I'm trying to argue here. I'm trying to explain why. So the elements that define physical pain is already I would say known by science. We have things that work. It's like everything is interconnected. If you get a cut in your skin, so you're gonna damage terminal nerves, and that's gonna release some substance that will be traveling to your brain, and the brain will codify those the presence of those substances as a pain. Okay, but we learned that you know although the brain is responsible to codify the pain information that come from your body, that also is translated to the spirit body. That is where those true information is storage. And the reason for that is that we learn, especially like in the book Heaven and Hell, that even after people die, they report back that they still feeling pain. But now we don't have the apparatus, the physical apparatus to process pain. So now this pain that this spirit is suffering the other side has more to do with the emotion and moral pain. So pain that is processed by the physical body can be somehow managed more easily way. So we have medication that we can apply and we can manage that. The pain that is a result of emotional or moral cause is the remedy is different. The remedy is embedded in the divine laws. And here's the thing: we have 90% of our conscience, the mind, is formed by our unconscious, where we have several events that has happened that is embedded over there, like silent, right? And then when we go to an event that trigger a moral suffering, is because some of the cause of those events, according to Joanna de Angeli, of course, emerge to our conscience and create based on the probability, and possibility, the environment that we live in gave rise to manifest the effect of that cause that happened and that was embedded in our unconsciousness. So, and you're right. It seems that in that sense, sometimes the moral and the emotional pain has different weight because it's more complex than the physical pain.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Daniel. And then just a comment brought by Paula here to us saying today's Zen calendar is from Eckhart Tolle when he says suffering is necessary until we realize it is unnecessary, right? We put an end to it. We go back to the GPS and we make the right turn.
Nothing by chance. I think, yeah, Paula, I think Eckhart Tolle and I was in sync, right? So it was not a coincidence, you ask. That was pretty much planned,
Plan.
at some point in time, that sentence, and very well put together, Paula. Thank you for sharing that.
That you guys would meet and say pretty much the same thing. So that's good. Yes. Daniel, here's a question by Leo. Does the acknowledgement of chance goes against the acknowledgement of a creator? If my existence is a product of chance, what is the reason to believe in a creator?
That's a good question, Leo. Yes, I think, yeah, go against. Yes, I would say yes, no doubt it. Uh, I think sometimes we mixed our ability to co-create with the supreme intelligence that creates. You know what I mean? So I think because sometimes since we are not, we don't understand God completely, and his or her or its laws, we at least wanted to become part of the creative. So, or at least can come with something to tell the creator that we have some kind of right. But at the end of the day, yeah, it goes against, because as we learned today, chance is blind, you know, and is blind. So whatever happened in our life that has an intelligent effect, so we cannot attribute this to chance. We need to look at back, and if we don't know the answer, that's okay. But we should not, throw our frustration in the universe. I mean, I know that we have that saying, I'm just wanted to vent, and that's fine. That's another another things, you know. I'm saying that we should not start to blame the universe. When we say the universe, means, God.
Very well explained. Thank you. And then Kirsten comes and says, if the laws are written in our conscience and we carry guilt from life to another, from one life to another, couldn't we be suffering more than we need to? Maybe we need self forgiveness.
Maybe we need self forgiveness. Yeah, I think we need self forgiveness. And here's the thing about the the divine law written in our conscience. So since we, the intelligent beings of the creation, this means the spirit, you know. So if we are intelligent beings, means that we have some responsibility in the creation, and the responsibility toward ourselves through our evolution, but also the responsibility toward in the creation itself. Whatever we do, when we say creation, we say nature with one another. Whatever we do that impact the external, and so and that responsibility that we have um, toward the evolutionary process change because it's proportional to the level of understanding that we have. So when we talk about the divine, the moral law is written in our conscience, it's not is written over there, but is become unfolded and clear as we evolve by experience in life. And we only evolved if we have experience. If we don't have experience, there is no way we can evolve. And experience means make choices and decisions in our life. So it is okay in the level that we are, that we are in the area of trial and errors. But some people already know more. So that's why God always say that if you know more, not God, Jesus, so more is going to be expected from you, right? So in that sense, the law is written, but it's up to us to develop and understand and put that law in practice. So in general, we live more in the theory level, as we put that in practice. So we're gonna get it. Okay, now I know. Now it's pain. Now it's suffering. Now it's not good. So let me get back to track. So the law is there to put us back to track, So every time we come back to track, is the law acting. Every time we go out of track, is our free will acting. So in that way, God gave to us, you know, the ability to make our own decision. That's why the free will is a faculty of the spirit, the intelligent being of the creation. So, and I that's the way I can see that situation of the divine laws. The fact that we have the divine laws written in our conscience doesn't prevent us to suffering, because the free will drive our actions.
And with our free will, we'll, in our level, and obviously in the future, we'll make mistakes and we'll have to correct them. So there will be some suffering in the process, right? So that's very well put. Thank you for reminder. And we have several other questions here. We do have some time, but let's go through it. Kirsten said again, couldn't the COVID-19 virus be a possible physical or moral jolt, excuse me, for humanity? And what I would add to this, Daniel, as well, is what about the moral pain sometimes that we have, the little things that we go through, that we see a person changing, right? Could that be a moral jolt that you describe? Because sometimes, people think that the moral jolt is something like we're going through right now, something big.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, kissing. I agree. I think what happened right now is all the above. Is the moral and the physical joy that the create is allowed. So here is the thing that we can analyze this. Okay, so in the creation, um, we live in this environment of possibility. Everything is possible. Okay, we have room for outcome that would be positive and outcome to be negative. So for example, let us look at our body. Okay, we each cell of our body has genes that will trigger a disease. Okay, but those genes is turned off. you know So at some point in life, so we have the potential to develop a disease at some point of our life, but the way our body works is like checks and balance. So it's like, positive and negative. So that needs to be in balance. But depends of our free will, the way we act, those genes may be turned on, and then suddenly we start to be, experience a state of disease condition, for example. And the question is what is the need for that? Well, there is two ways to see that. First, evolutionary way to see. Second, could be that you are like using your free will too much. Now, the natural law, the law that govern the physical body, that govern the mechanism of work of the cells, is acting to restore. So a very silly example. For example, when our organism gets sick, one of the first symptoms is what? Fever. Yeah. So what our body is telling us, our body is talking to us. So we blame our body for get sick. We blame the cells, the immune system to get weak. Oh, I never blame my immune system because I didn't sleep the whole night or I didn't eat well. No, we made the decision to go to that situation. Now the body is crying and is complaining because the body has a natural law mechanism that will turn on, turn off, depends how we act. So in that case, okay, the virus, what happened? They are doing their perfectly evolutionary process. The virus is evolving. That's why we have so many variants over there. Good for them. They are multiplying, but then we allow those to happen through our behavior. Because if we follow the right things, probably the variant would be less. But in the long scale, look in the house from the top, we see at the end of the day that there is some, progress happen. Right now, the progress is happening in the medical field, in other areas. We are learning new things, but also in the microscopic level, right? Because now this intelligent principle that is animate that virus also is evolving in their kingdom as well.
Thank you, Daniel, for the explanation. We're going to move on to Yasko when she asks, Daniel, great topic. I think no one incarnates to suffer, say child abuse. I believe she's saying, I think no one incarnates to suffer
A child
a
abuse.
child abuse, right? Be attacked and become quadruphobically. JK, excuse me. Also, that no person comes to be a child abuser, a murderer. There is a higher probability in one or other conditions, family settings. How Spiritism advises us to shift the chances towards better outcome.
Mhm. Yeah, now that's true. You ask, when we come, I think I have a
You do a
li-
little bit.
something. I think is my. Just a minute. Let me. I think my system here is changing. Just a minute. Let
I
me.
think it's
Just.
better now, Daniel.
It's better now. Now I can hear myself. Yeah, it's weird. Okay, I think it's better now. Uh, so thi- you're right. Nobody. We don't come here, to suffering, to suffer at all. Okay. So let's put it this way. We learn, and I mentioned this in our study group, that in the level that we are, uh, there is no injustice. Oh, so in the level that we are, there is injustice, but no one. I'm trying to translate here from the Portuguese to the English. So there is no injustice, but no one is allowed to make justice with their own hand. Okay, so the way that we see that is that, okay, so if someone did something wrong in the past, if we did something in the past, so we don't have the authority to go and make the justice with our own hand, because we already have the divine laws to correct that. So there is a saying that, um, we feel pity for those that try to do justice with their own hands, you know, because we know that in the um, natural process of evolution, whatever that spirit has done, they will uh, they will at some point in time in the future have to make amendment with that situation. But it's not on us to make that justice. You know what I mean? So the moment we do this, we are stepping in the boundary of the divine laws. And I think the way that Spiritism says is like, and we have those advices by also our spirit's mentor, you know, and also we learned this in the book of André Luiz as well, when André Luiz as a spirit was a little bit upset what he was seeing happen in a family setting or some situation, and often the mentor come, do not worry, you know, time and the divine justice will take care of the situation, you know. And even ourselves, when we see something that, I mean, there is a thin line when we need to step in or when we need just to, you know, look at things from the above. It's a very delicate topic, especially like when we talk about child abuse. And what we always see is that, you know, we have no authority to go and try to do anything that in the name of, I'm doing this with this because I don't know, this family need to pay something like that, so we need to be careful. And the Yasu is right, we are not here to go to that suffering. The suffering is determined by the law, the divine law. It's not by us. When we step in and try to do anything that harm other people because of our uh, uh, um, pride, because of our, um, sick behave, because people that do this, they are sick of the mind. They are just collecting more debts in their evolutionary process.
Thank you, Daniel, for the comment. And this reminds me of the book Sex and Destiny, right? When André Luiz actually, with Pedro Neves, if I'm not mistaken, it actually is very questioning the behavior of some of the individuals who are incarnated still with their family members, right? And it's, the mentor appears and reminds them, look, let us, help the environment, not make it even worse than already is. So very well said, very reminded. And I believe, if not mistaken, it's about chapter 3 or 4 of the book Sex and Destiny. But so thank you. Paula asks, when you find yourself suffering, what are some quick tips to shift yourself?
There is no quick tip because depends of who is suffering. Some people when they are suffering, I mean, like they may, go to the beach, right, Leo? They may like just go and spend a weekend outside of that situation.
I
But
only need 4 hours, Daniel. That's a
you
great.
need, but some people they may need, 4 months or 6 months to get over of that suffering. I think the quick depends. That's my because that's a very personal question, and if I throw any number here, so I'm not gonna be fair. But I think if I have to give some of what I've learned and try to apply to myself, is like this: the first thing you need to do it is stop, stop, stop. When you say stop, it's like when we are suffering, we are like we want to to externalize that suffering. I know that some suffering is in silence. The person is suffering, but it's external something that everything's right. But you need to stop and reflect. You know, well, sometimes you cannot even do that. Then you need to look for help. I mean, like I'm sorry, but when the pain is great, like so you need to look for help. In Spiritism, we always advise that if your suffering becoming unbearable, you know, search for professional help. You know, uh, depends of the intensity of the suffering, we're gonna need a professional help. And if this is the situation, it's not gonna be a quick fix. It's not gonna be very quick. It's gonna take time. Because here's the thing: sometimes our suffering is a product of a long time of bad behavior. It's like, for example, if nowadays for some reason I lose this hand, the right side that I used to write, okay, so I spend my whole life use my right hand. So if one day I lose this hand, so I need to learn how to use my left hand. This require time because I was not training with that. So the same way that suffering, when we are suffering, is because based on our discussion here that nothing happened by chance. At some point, that suffering was the cause was took long time for us nowadays to experience that stuff. So even if we wanted to have a quick way to leave that situation, we're not going to be possible. You know, we have several examples, like if you spend the whole life smoking, so and suddenly you quit smoke, your lung is not going to be healthy overnight. There is no quick way to do that, but maybe give time. Maybe if you have still like young, if you are still young. So for the moral side, sometimes works like this way. Depends of the intensity.
Perfect. All right, Daniel. I'm moving on to Alba. Thank you, Daniel. Wonderful talk. I'm wondering, in the case of someone that was murdered, it was the destiny of the victim to die that way, and the murderer was destined to become a criminal. Sorry, I didn't read this before, but it goes a little bit in hand with what we were discussing when Yasko asked us. But if you want to go ahead and
Yeah.
address it, right
Now,
ahead.
in regards to, there is no justification for the to break the Ten Commandment. Okay, you break the Ten Commandment, there is no justification. Okay, so you already like yes, we already like violate the law. Okay, there is no predestining thing like this person needs to be killed and this person needs to. So if you kill, you are violate that law. Period. Okay, you're gonna respond before God's the divine laws. Now, there is one thing that we learn in Spiritism is that the scandal is necessary, but uh, how do you say this in English?
Those who created.
The scandal is necessary, but those who create the scandal will face the divine laws. So let's say again. I don't know how to say this in English. I'm just like translate what we have learned in Portuguese. O escândalo é necessário, mas ai daquele que criou o escândalo. The scandal is necessary. When we say the scandal, it's like uh, difficult thing, struggle needs to happen for us to change. The same way we look at like in the nature, struggle among animal life exists, but there is a purpose, you know. But that struggle is monitored by God's law. If you go to a cocoon and try to release that cocoon to become a butterfly, if we help that process, we are not helping the butterfly because the wing is going to be weak, so they're not going to be able to fly. So we are somehow infringing that natural process. So if the society needs to advance, and for some reason people say, okay, we need to kill those people because they are bad people, that's not up to us. Because if we do that, we are violate the Ten Commandments. You shall not kill, no matter what. Whatever, even those that come and justify that we need to have the penal code that, if you kill, you need to be killed. Then we are level ourselves by the killer approach. And that is not what law Jesus has proposed us.
Very well, Daniel. A good reminder of the first revelation, right? That sometimes we forget so much, about it. It's not something that Jesus brought; he exemplified, but it was brought by Moses. Through the first revelation, the Ten Commandments, right? So, thank you for bringing that. Because of time, we would like to share one more question here. And that comes from Paula when she says physical moral jolts seems like tough love parenting, as the recipients can become quite upset. Thus, is this suffering for a higher purpose?
I guess so, isn't it? I think was that with Spirit said that time to time, God will allow those things to happen in our life. So it's the tough love that we always say when we are parents. We don't want to see our children cry, but sometimes we have to make some decisions that is to the benefit of them. uh, of course, we are just level compare ourselves with the creator here. But yeah, Paula, I agree. I think sometimes those jolt is the tough love. Yeah, the tough love. There's other comments here that I see.
Daniel, I do want to say, bring one comment here. It's the
Okay.
final by Raquel. It's very pertinent to what we're saying here. What if one kills in self defense?
So there is a question in the Spirit's book about that. I mean, like, if you go to, especially like the moral laws, I think is the law of progress, is the type wars. Okay, there's a question over there that Kardec asked. What about the soldier that goes to the war and kill in the self-defense? You know what I mean? It's exactly what's, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but Raquel, the answer is over there. So it's a different approach because the law of God has some kind of attenuation. In this case, I'm not in position to say, yeah, you're right, but what we learn in our evolution process that we have the self-defense mechanism embedded in our physiology. So the self-defense is a product of an instinct, and the instinct never errs. Okay, it's different of the intelligence that now the reason has the influence of the free will because we have time to process the situation. So we are using our intelligence, are using our reason by taking advantage of our intelligence. Now, the self-preservation is embedded in our physiology, so it means we are always in alert to protect ourselves. So in that case, if you kill someone in the self-defense, you are not, majority of the time, our instinct is the one that is playing a role over there, and the instinct is part of the natural laws. So in that case, by using this argument that I bring to you, depends of the situation, we may have attenuation of the law. Okay, so I think it's something that we require more discussion about that, because many times people say, "Oh, it was self-defense," but really don't know the whole situation, how things happen. If the person has a chance to escape, to go, to do other thing, and if the person didn't have time to reason, you know, and just act by instinct, then you apply the natural law. If the person has time to reason, to calculate, then you are somehow, you may even say that was self-defense, but if you didn't took out the precautions, so you may be face, consequence of the law.
Daniel, I want to thank you once more in the name of everyone here who participated. Thank all of you who made questions, who connected with us this afternoon. It's always nice to be reminded that we are not alone, right? That we are working together. When we put this the effort to bring something like this, that we're being watched, right? That we're connecting somehow. So that is an amazing feeling, and we need one another to continue this work. To finalize, I would like to ask you to say the final prayer, Danny, so we can bid ourselves farewell.
Okay, Leo, thank you everyone for participating. Thank you everyone for the comments and the questions. And we know that we are all here learning, right? It was a great joy for me to go back and to revisit some of those information. And my message, before I do my final prayer, is that um, everything is under the control of the Creator. Even though we don't see a light at the end of the tunnel, and if right now you are going to a very difficult situation, just keep in mind that this will pass. Um, Let us do the best that we can nowadays. Let us not react without reason, without stop and think about it. Let's calculate the consequence of our actions, because if we stop and take some time to calculate, how the consequence would be, many of our actions would be put aside. So in that mode, I would like to invite everyone to raise your thought. First, to give thanks to the noble spirits, our personal guardian angels that has been by our side always, by allow us to have one another, to have this community of the Spiritist Society of Baltimore. May the blessings of our Master Jesus and all those enlightened spirits be with us, and may we have a great week ahead. May we have time for reflection and to put in perspective all the events that has been happened in our life, and analyze under the teachings of Spiritism. For those that are not familiar with Spiritism, with these teachings, you have time to learn more, but at the end of the day, let's try to apply what we have learned throughout humanity, the golden rules. The golden rules always teach us that we should always do to others what we'd like them have done to us. Bless all of us, dear Lord, and with the guidance, protection, and permission, we close our activity of today, and so be it.
Thank you, everyone. Until next time.